Hi, it's Io here. I just wanted to hop on just to say a quick note before this episode goes live. This episode was recorded last week with Stacey Meadwell live on LinkedIn, and we were talking about the hidden features of LinkedIn because both of us feel that there are so many features that people don't really make the most of. So what I wanted to do was just share this live over here on the podcast. We are talking to slides, so if you want to have a look at what we're doing, I will also put a link in the show notes to our YouTube where it's recorded and also to the handouts as well, so you can get both of those. Anyway, enjoy the show. In 2023 alone, LinkedIn introduced over 200 new features, which is tons. And I go on LinkedIn a lot, and I don't even know them all. I don't think anyone does. But it's worth knowing Kevin Turner actually, or Kevin D. Turner, who actually does list them all, which is always really useful to see. Anyway, so the new features are really quite good. So they can increase the range of your content, boost engagement and propel your reach. So, and they can also help you stand out from the crowd for what everyone else is doing. And it's all stuff that is actually relatively easy to use and low cost or no cost.
Which is key, I think, here. So let's get cracking, Io. I think you're taking the first one, which is creator mode.
Okay, so, hey, look, I did some slides.
Yay!
And look, it's me, like 4 times on screen, or like 3 times on screen. It's great. So creator mode. So creator mode was basically launched, I think it was about 18 months ago by LinkedIn. And it was about giving users more access to sharing tools. It gives them better analytics. And it's basically a way, it gives you more control over your LinkedIn profile. So it's like, what do you really want to show your audience at that point from your content? So you've got more control of your content, better analytics, and more features. And in terms of how you find it, the way that you would find it as a user would be you would view your profile and then go to the kind of arrow that has your profile. And then you could click a toggle on or off for creator mode. But actually, LinkedIn are changing that this month. So it's all going to be slightly different. But I'll come to that in a second. But in terms of looking at the slide, some of the stuff that you get like this featured section here, which I've got at the top of mine, which I've created some little kind of squares from in Canva to make them kind of work really well. And then also you can choose more in terms of what you want to show. So you can decide that you want to show posts for this month, or you might want to show, actually, I've got some really good videos that I want to push. So you can have videos as the first thing that people see. So you can choose which type of content you want to spotlight on your actual profile, which is actually really, really useful feature. But I think just understanding that you're kind of in creator mode, you're given more, I guess, freedom. But I mean, the main things that are coming up now is that LinkedIn are now giving a lot of the creator mode features to everybody. So they're going to start rolling that out this month, actually. So in February. So there's a link, which I will put in the comments, actually, which is all about creator mode and what's changing in terms of LinkedIn. So they're going to take away the creator mode on-off button in March, that's only next month. But you'll still keep all your creator mode features. I just think what they're going to do is actually give everybody more features. And it's also going to give you more kind of control over whether or not you have a follow button or a connect button as well. So those are the kind of 2 main things. And I think the about topics are going further. So the about your profile is going to be further up on your profile. I'll share links to that in the comments so you can have a good read yourself, but that's worth knowing.
The other important thing to remember about creator mode that they're rolling out to everybody is it gives you access to certain features, 2 of which that we're going to be talking about a little later on. These are things that you could do that you could only do if you had creator mode switched on, but everybody's going to have access to them. But I won't sort of steal the thunder of what we're going to talk about a little bit later.
Okay, so moving on from that, so after creator mode, the next thing to talk about is actually the events tab. So the events tab I think is the main bit of where you can find most of the hidden features of LinkedIn. So you find it by going to the homepage on LinkedIn, scrolling down, and if you have a look, there's a left-hand column, which has got lots of stuff like it has a thing which talks about recent events that you've been involved in at top. So either you've been involved in or you've signed up for, and you can find those easily there. And then you've got groups, which I have to admit I don't use at all. But I think it's the old LinkedIn groups because they're all spammy now and rubbish. And then underneath that, you've got the events tab. Now, if you have a look there, it's got for me, it's got a live that I did last week for my marketing show. And then it's also got things that I've signed up for or watched recently. So that is how you find the event. And if you click on here, and basically you go down, then the next slide, let me make sure I'm in the right bit. It gives you this, which is basically the events tab. And this is where you find LinkedIn's audio events, LinkedIn's live video events like this one. And also, if you're running events off platform, you can also create a LinkedIn event that links to that as well. So you've got kind of 3 types of events that live in this area. And it's just worth knowing that this is here. I think this is one of these kind of features that is on your profile, but you may never even know it's there. I mean, if you did know it was there, let me know, or if you didn't, if this is news to you. But there's this whole kind of world of events in LinkedIn, and it's worth knowing how to access them and how you can find more stuff.
And I would just jump in and say that if you are using the app, you just click on your little profile pic and you get 2 options there. One is groups and one is events, and you come to that same page. If you click on events, it gives you a list of all the things that either your lives that you're doing, stuff that you've said you're attending, or external events. And I think the external events thing is quite interesting, and I don't think people, you use that very much. It's a really good way of promoting stuff that you are doing off the platform.
Yeah, exactly. And I guess if you see that as another promotional channel, so you could add your events to it as another way of just finding more people who might be searching if you're looking to attract more of an audience or to engage with more people. So yeah, I do think this events tab and external events is definitely underused. I agree with you. Okay, so what's next?
Next is, while we're talking about LinkedIn events, I want to talk about LinkedIn events. It's not a surprise. It's not a surprise feature if you're watching this because you are watching a LinkedIn event. But you don't see many of them popping up, and I think they're very underused. So many events at conferences are pay to play now. And they're often quite a lot of money as well. Whereas a LinkedIn event, doing something like this, is fairly low cost. You have to use an external streaming platform. We use StreamYard. But the cost of that is fairly low compared to what you would have to pay if you were doing a panel or a discussion at a conference. And the key thing is, it's an event that you control. You decide when it is. You decide on the topic, the format, and if you want guests, you can do solo. So if you wanted to just do a live by yourself, you could do that. That whole idea of that absolutely terrifies me. So I would never do that. Or you could do like co-host, like, we do these together every month. Or you can have guests, and we have had guests. It might be you and a guest. You decide on the format. It's in your control to decide what you want to do. So you decide on the content, the time, and the format. And it's a great way, from a marketing point of view, it's a great way of engaging with people, because, as I say, you're all watching. You can comment. We can reply to your comments. It's a great way of having that interaction, and people watching you talking about things really helps build a connection. And when we've both had people come up to us and mention the lives that we do, that they've watched a live, they've seen us, and it breaks down those barriers. It's also a massive content generator. I'm a firm believer in, don't just do one piece of content. Take that piece of content and make it into lots of different content. And this is a classic example. Not only are we streaming live here to LinkedIn, but we're also simultaneously streaming live to IO's YouTube channel. We could also stream live to an Instagram channel. We could stream in 3 different places. We could also stream live as a webinar, so people don't even have to go onto a social platform. So you can be in 4 places at once. So there is that. You can download the video. The video appears as a replay on LinkedIn, so it's there forever. You can download the video. and put it. So I take the video and I put that on my YouTube channel. So it's appearing on two YouTube channels. But we also cut and splice it, take little clips that we use in social posts and smaller, there's smaller little snippets. You can download the audio and turn it into a podcast. If you have a company podcast, you can run that audio through Otter and get a transcript and turn that into articles and blog posts. There are so many things that you can do. So it's
if you left anything at all.
I could talk about other things. I've got so many ideas. But the point being is the time. It doesn't take that long to set it up, does it, Io? I mean,
no.
Once you've sorted out the banner, we have a banner, and all we have to do is change the title and the date on it each time. Once you've set that up and you've set up your description, it only takes 5 minutes to set it up. It's really, really easy. LinkedIn has a guide to LinkedIn Lives and how it's step by step. And I can put a link to that in the comments afterwards. But considering the amount of work that goes into it and all the stuff you can generate from it, it feels a bit like a no-brainer, and not many people are doing it. And you can stream from your company page. So if you've got a big following on your company page, you can stream from there, as well as from personal accounts. So yeah, I'm a bit of a fan. Obviously, we do them, but I just think it's a really powerful marketing tool, I feel, anyway.
Okay, Gavin Wimbanks. Hi, Gavin.
Hi, Gavin.
So he's asked us what streaming services we use to do this live. So we use StreamYard, which is a couple of £100 a year, I think. And it streams, and you can stream live into LinkedIn, YouTube, lots of other things. And it's a really good intuitive platform. Other ones you can explore, I think there's one called Ecom, which is ECOMM. And there's also one called Restream, which is RESTREAM. I'll put those in the comments afterwards as well. So they're 3 different platforms. And I would just say, just try them out and see. And I mean, they work really well, and they give you really professional quality audio. And actually the audio from this video, for example, I use in my podcast. So it is high quality audio and things like that. So I think it's finding one tool that works for you. But Ecamm, there you go. Steve Folland just said that. So I think that's the main thing, is just try out some of these tools. I think the one thing to say though about video is, I think it's like any other piece of content that you do need some kind of structure. You do need to know roughly what you're doing, because I think sometimes people just stand there and just like, hi, we're just coming online. And it's like, this has no structure or no feel, and they're not thinking about the audience who are listening. So I think you do need to have a bit of a structure and kind of know roughly what you're going to do.
Which is kind of ironic saying that, considering we messed up the start of this.
Yeah, but that involves me reading, so that never works. But we do have a structure.
I have notes. We do plan, and I think it is a really important point. Is to know plan out your lives like you would any piece of content. And do we want to move on to audio events as something?
Maybe I think before we do, let's answer. April Bolton's just asked a question.
Oh,
which I think is actually
sorry, April. Missed that.
I just saw it. It just said, "Is there a way that LinkedIn Lives to now show how many people have signed up to it?" Yes, there is. What you do is you have to go into the event on LinkedIn, and then if you click into the event itself and you click on Manage, there is you can see who's there, there's a networking tab which shows you everybody that's signed up for it. To see so you can see how many people we had 52 or something, didn't we, today, right? So we can see everybody's names and everyone who signed up. And there's a couple of things you can do as well through that Manage tab, is that you can email every single person in that network, regardless of their first, second or third connections, if you go in via that Manage tab. And then you can, post-event, for example, I tend to send out an email which sort of says, in case you didn't make it, i.e. if I don't see your name in the comments, because we can't always tell precisely who's watched, I send a quick email with the link to actually rewatch the live. So in case someone's missed it, they've got the link directly. So I think there's stuff like that you can look at and do. And then also in that Manage tab, there's also some really good analytics as well. So you get to know watch times, key kind of people that have watched it, not people, but like their levels, their seniority, and some of the key firms as well, because we look at that like in a couple of days later, don't we, and see are they the right types of people we want watching and things like that.
And the thing to remember is that because it lives on, it accumulates views. And, you know, sometimes we don't get a huge amount of people watching live. Sometimes it's difficult because people have got busy diaries and stuff to actually be there. But people will catch up and watch the replay. And it tells you how many minutes have been watched, how many people have watched the replay. So it's not something that's just, just there for the moment. It's something that lives on the platform, and obviously on YouTube as well, because we're streaming there.
And we've got a couple of lives, and you've got a blog as well, haven't you, about LinkedIn lives and how to get the most out of them. And I think we'll put some links to those in the comments. I've got a lot of comments and links to put in, but we'll do that at the end.
Yes.
But the other thing to kind of mention is sometimes when you first do that event post when you're setting it up on, say, StreamYard, and it pulls it through to LinkedIn, the reach can be really low. So you just have to be aware that you will have to do more stuff to get people to attend and know what's going on.
Yeah.
So you're just making sure you're doing separate posts that link into it, and that you are inviting people directly as well. Because I think all of that just means that you get more visibility. So you really do have to push them a bit more and just be mindful that for some reason your awareness is diminished, isn't it?
Yeah, I think basically what LinkedIn does is, because you're using an external platform to stream onto LinkedIn, it treats it like a web link, and LinkedIn doesn't like web links. But even though it's a LinkedIn event, it kills the reach. And we found actually inviting people is the best, actually sending out invites. And actually there's a bonus to that, because it's an opportunity to get into people's, notifications by sending them
their DMs.
Get into people slide into their DMs.
But
it's an opportunity. Well, I think it's more you get a notification to say you've been invited, but it's an opportunity to kind of, to send a notification to someone, invite people. So there's a bonus to that as well. Do you want to talk about audio specifically, Io?
We have one more question, which I think we should probably just cover
missing
off.
the questions. Pay attention, Meadwell.
See? It's another April question. So awesome. Thank you. Do you think it is better than Eventbrite? I think they're two completely different tools. I think Eventbrite's about signups, really, isn't it? And all of that. I wouldn't say that the LinkedIn stuff is anywhere near as good, to be honest, in terms of signups and capturing people. But, Eventbrite is a very different tool in terms of how I see it, and events and event management.
The thing I would say about LinkedIn events is, if you've already got a big network here, and when you go live, it pops up in people's streams that you're going live. Whereas if you're doing something off platform, when if you've got big mailing lists and stuff, you can obviously promote it that. And we always promote it through our own newsletters. But if you've already built up a presence, or you're building up a presence on LinkedIn, it can work both ways. It can be a good way of kind of connecting with your existing network, but also help you build up your network on LinkedIn.
Hi, it's Io here, and I just wanted to interrupt the show quickly to say a bit more about what I do. I'm a digitally led marketing consultant, and I specialise in working with built environment firms just like yours. I think there's so much more that AEC firms can do to make the most of the digital marketing opportunity. And if it's something that you would like to explore working with me, how to make the best of online and in-person worlds, then do get in touch. Email me at io, which is AYO, at abbasmarketing.com, and let's have a chat. The next kind of type of audio event that you can have is actually LinkedIn audio. So, which again, I don't think many people know about.
No.
It's basically, I guess it's like LinkedIn's version of Clubhouse, if you remember, back to like 2 years ago.
Remember Clubhouse?
Yeah, when it was cool. And everyone was like, if you haven't got an iPhone, you can't get on. And I was like, I don't have an iPhone, sorry. And then when they brought it out to Android, it was too late, wasn't it? So it's basically that. So it's audio events. And what's interesting about that is that, when it first came out, LinkedIn had so many gremlins, and people didn't have volume, and the volume was really bad and the audio was bad, but it's all been fixed and it works really, really well. And if anything, it seems to be, they seem to be pushing it algorithm wise. So there's a huge opportunity there to kind of build up a following audio wise. And again, I think it's about having that structure, knowing what you're doing. You know, you can have your set speakers who are your main people at the top table or panel or whatever, and then you can pull people from the audience or whatever, or manage it in the way that works for you. But just having that structure again. I was going to talk about Mel Barfield and Ben McKinney. They've started running a regular LinkedIn audio event for copywriters. And they have like a set time when they do it, themes, topics. They have guests. They had Dave Harlan the other day. And they're on the back of that, they then do a Substack newsletter where they write up about the event, you know, include quotes from people and sort of tag people in. But I think the one thing about LinkedIn audio is that you can't record them. So for me, that's a huge misstep because, like we say, we're really into repurposing. How else can we get more bang for our buck? And let's be honest, people are busy, can't always make certain times. So I think that's the one kind of area where I'm like, add in a recording feature. It would make it so much easier. So I think that's the one bit where that kind of falls down, and which is why I haven't really tried it. Mm-hmm. But I guess some people are kind of doing their own thing and having kind of ways around it to record the audio and then use it in some way, shape or form. I have no idea how they're doing that.
No, there is a way. I've heard of people talking about there is a way that you can hack it so that you can get a recording. But maybe it's one that we should try at some point. We should give it a go because neither of us have actually tried the audio.
No, that's the one we haven't.
And it's kind of like I suppose it's sort of a more, it's sort of like listening to a live podcast, I suppose is the best way of describing it. And, you know, if people want to ask a question, you can invite them and they can actually verbally ask the question rather than type something in. But yeah, maybe we should give it a go. But as you say, the algorithm is really pushing it at the moment.
Yeah. There's a lady called Liz Hamlet, actually, and she's running some masterclasses on running LinkedIn audio events, which I think she's charging like 20 quid for. And I think I've got a feeling, though, it's going to be a very similar thing to how you run a LinkedIn Live, you know, that just understanding how you manage it. But I think that's the main thing, is that just knowing that all of that is there for audio and give it a go. And I think you can build up good communities. So, yeah. So we do need to try one. We are going to try one, by the way.
We are. We will. We
heard
will.
it here first. Audio only. That's us. Yeah.
Shall we talk about newsletters next? Because this is another, I think, underused feature. This is a creator mode feature that is being rolled out. You don't need an external platform. You don't need MailerLite or anything like that. This is something you can purely do through LinkedIn. And once you've got it set up, I mean, all you really need is a banner. And I think you put a little description about what your newsletter is about. But once you've done that, you just literally create an article and it sends it out to all your subscribers of your newsletter. And one of the things that I found, because I started a LinkedIn newsletter back in the summer, I'd already started an email newsletter, and the email newsletter is still important. It's something I will continue doing. But the speed with which you gather subscribers to a LinkedIn newsletter is crazy. I mean, you know, I'm a freelancer, so I don't have big company backing or anything. And I got to 1,000 subscribers really, really quickly. It kind of tails off. You don't get that level of increase month on month after the initial kind of initial start, the initial publication of your newsletter. But it carries on creeping up, and I don't do any promotion I don't ask people to subscribe. It literally finds subscribers, and because it's an article, it's Google searchable. So it's a really useful tool. The first one you put out, make sure it's all singing, all dancing, because the algorithm will really push your first newsletter really hard, which is, I think, why you get a massive influx of subscribers when you first start. And then subsequent issues, I think it gets put in all the feeds of your subscribers. And it has really good stats. It will tell you how many people have it's not just impressions, because impressions are a bit of a wishy-washy stat because they don't tell you who's read it, but it will tell you how many people have viewed your article, which I think is really useful. And my last edition, I got nearly 400 views. And I'm not a big company. So I know that there are companies. I know you've got an example of a company that does a newsletter. But the other thing to remember is that with newsletters, you can have more than one. You can run them from your company page. So if you are a big business with several different departments, several different disciplines, you could run say, for example, you're an agency and you cover, you could have one for the office sector, you could have one for the industrial sector, you could have one for the residential. You could have more than one newsletter, and you can tailor them. Is this right, Ayu? You can tailor them to go out to specific audiences.
I think you can. If you can't do the segmentation, I think that's where that could fall down. So I would look into the segmentation part, because I'm not entirely sure, because I've not tried it. I think that would be the only bit where I'm like, because like if you're only, if you're a large agent, you're going to have so many different markets. I think you just need to be mindful of that. But at least, you can have, if there are certain themes that work across multiple segments of your audience, then great. But if not, and you can't segment as much, then maybe having that many different kind of specific newsletters might not work as well. But do you know what? That's the kind of thing you can try quite easily and see how it goes. But I just don't think people are maximizing their use of it.
No, it doesn't have to be loads of extra work either. I mean,
no.
Spoiler alert, I don't actually create new content for my LinkedIn newsletter. I take the content from my email newsletter and I repurpose it for my LinkedIn newsletter. There are certain bits that are only on my email newsletter that are exclusive to the email newsletter, so that subscribers to that are getting something that nobody else gets. But I literally repurpose it. It's nothing I haven't already created. In fact, actually, my email newsletter goes out twice a month now. And what I do is I combine the two into one LinkedIn newsletter. But yeah, I think it's just you've got a captive audience. If you've got a big network, they're all there.
And I think that to really emphasize the whole newsletter thing. So I think for my own kind of mailer-like newsletter, I have, say, 250 subscribers. For my LinkedIn newsletter, which is basically the snippets version, just a shortened version of that, which actually my virtual assistant mainly puts together for me as a draft. I go and do a minor edit. It takes me less than half an hour to do it. I've got 1,500 subscribers. So, it's a big difference. And also it's the same content. And I think you've just got to kind of sit there and go, I've done this piece of work. How else can I get it out to my audience? And I think the LinkedIn newsletters are really underutilized. And also I think you've got the whole thing of loads of property firms and companies have already got their own newsletters. Why not have one on LinkedIn? It'll be really easy. I'm just going to talk about an example, which is actually Bureau Happold. So Bureau Happold, engineering firm, global engineering firm. They've got 200,000 subscribers to their company page, but they also do a monthly newsletter, which is basically a roundup of what happened the month before. Really easy, small 50-word snippets with a link to their kind of story on their main website. And it's just lots of little snippets of stories. They put that out once a month. They've got 66,000 signups for that newsletter. So can you imagine that? It just means everything they've posted or done in that previous month gets another hit, another kind of bite of the cherry, as it were. And yet it's just a way of kind of engaging and just giving yourself another chance to engage with your target audience. And it's a relatively simple thing to do, and it's free. So for me, there aren't that many firms actually doing this, and it's a huge opportunity. It's a missed opportunity. So yeah, that I thought was a really useful one to see.
Yeah, it's great. We're both big advocates. And IO was trying to get me to do a LinkedIn newsletter for ages, and I resisted. And then, of course, I did one and went, oh, wow, this is amazing. Isn't this brilliant? Look how great this is. And I was like, told you.
I think it's because you're like, I don't want to do another thing. But you're like, actually, this is really easy to do. It's not a huge amount of work for a hell of a lot of visibility.
Yeah,
so.
And it doesn't cost anything other than a bit of your time, I think is the other thing. We're going to go slightly over on our time for this one. I hope you don't mind and will indulge us. But our final one is actually link different types of posts that you have on LinkedIn. Io, do you want to go first?
So yeah, someone has actually called me the Queen of Polls, which I think is a great name. I know, because I love doing polls. There was a time when polls were really kind of really doing amazingly well in the algorithm, and everyone was doing them, and that's kind of when I backed away. But now, not that many people are doing them, and I still love them, so now I'm back. So polls are great, and it's a way, I guess, of for me, I kind of think of it when I'm going for a personal conundrum of thinking, oh, what should I do here? Or a client asks me a question. Quite often, I turn them into a poll. I keep it simple, so normally simple questions. And generally, it's a great way of having engagement, having conversations with people, and just kind of keep stuff relatively broad brush, because really it's about getting engagement and having conversations and starting something with different people. So, I mean, some of my recent polls have been, do you class yourself as an expert? Do you call yourself an influencer? How do you learn? What's your content priority? So it's all just little things like that. And some of those will link to maybe one of our lives or something that we're doing or trying to push. So polls, I think, are a kind of a good way of starting conversations, and they do still work. But yeah, don't do the ones about what did you have for breakfast? I hate those.
Yeah, or coffee or tea? No, I mean keep it relevant. And the algorithm does push polls, so you can actually get quite good traction on a poll with without too much effort. So they're definitely one, and it just mixes up your content, I think.
Yeah.
I was going to actually, because I noticed on there that on that one you've got other please comment, and one of the things that I was going to suggest, sorry, Io, is don't put that as an option, because keep it so that people either have to choose something and then encourage them to comment if they don't see the option that they like. Would be my sneaky little tactic.
Yeah, that's one thing. I mean, to be honest, my people still do comment, darling, so it works. Don't worry. I'm like, I know, I've heard that one before, but no, I still add it. There you go. Anyway, sorry.
No, that's fine. Okay. Just ignore me. My idea's rubbish.
No, I'm just challenging it. We don't have to agree on everything.
No, absolutely. If it works for you, it works for you. So, document post. Now, I did a poll about, and I mentioned document posts, and somebody commented that aren't those carousels. Now, some people call them carousels, some people call them sliders. LinkedIn calls
you call them sliders. I've never heard that.
I've heard other people calling them sliders. I don't know what to call them. This is the thing. Okay. LinkedIn calls them document, and this is where you just open a post and it's got all the little options below, and if you click on document, it lets you basically upload slides. It's a PDF. You just upload a PDF. I don't know whether you can do it from, I imagine that it works from a PowerPoint, and you convert that to a PDF and upload it that way. Or I use Canva, and I create a load of Canva slides, and I save it as a PDF and upload it. The reason why I think this is a good thing to do is it's like polls. It's a different type of content, and it's got good dwell because people click through from slide to slide to slide. So it tends to get pretty good impressions. My tip would be, don't put too much text on each slide. You see some where people have just put so much information on each slide. It's just too much. So keep it short and sweet. I mean, you could take, if you've done a thought leader and you've got 5 key points, make a point, make a slide for each point and make a document post that way. There are all sorts of different things that you can do. But they get really good engagement. And it's just something different from doing a text post or a text and image post.
And I just think layout wise for the slides, what you're saying about keeping the wording, like keeping the wording down so they're not too wordy. It's really, really important, especially because quite often people just scroll on their mobile phones. So think about having slides that work on a mobile phone. You try it, have a look, and then you realize actually your text is too small. So I think have that in mind, that especially me, like when I can't sleep, I might just be scrolling. I know. So yeah, and then the final one we've got is kind of events, isn't it? Which we've already kind of covered quite a lot, and just making the most out of those events.
I mean, I suppose the other thing I was just going to mention is video. I mean, everyone bangs on about video, but video again is still, I've seen more and more people are using video. I still don't think it's used enough. And some people are doing some really interesting things with video. There are some firms that are doing some really great sort of almost TikTok style video content that is just it's just a really different. They're presenting, buildings and presenting information about their business in a really interesting and innovative way. Put the
come on, you can do it, darling.
In an innovative way. So yeah, don't dismiss video, and it doesn't have to be really, really polished. As long as you've got reasonable sound and reasonable, people can see you and they can hear you properly.
And I think that's the thing. Yeah, and you can you can just like basically, get some little mics for your phone or whatever, or just use your mobile and decent lighting, and you'll be fine. And I think that's the thing, is like, it's just finding ways to engage and show who you are. And I think there are more and more that people can do. I think we may have some questions. Let me have a quick look. I like this one. Lana always says, oh my God, yes, please. Advice on how to utilize polls for my company, which is super useful information. I think for companies, I would just say they don't use them enough, polls. And if you can just ask questions. If you're about to put out a report on sustainability, ask a question around sustainability. And then you can trail that you've got a report coming out. So there's loads of things you can do. It's just, how can you ask questions?
Yeah.
What do you want to know?
But I think, as Io said, keep it fairly simple. I mean, the other thing actually is it doesn't give you that many letters to use on each option. So sometimes you have to be quite creative in, you can't like have a 2-sentence.
It's like 30 characters or something, isn't it? Something
it's really, really small. So you might have to play around with what the text that you put on each poll button. It doesn't give you that much space, unfortunately.
Okay, so Frederica has a question for us. So what would you class as too much text on a single carousel page, i.e. more than 1 or 2 sentences? I'd say normally it's like 1 sentence, isn't it? And it's not even a 1 full sentence. It could be.
I mean, I would say it depends on how long your sentences are.
That's true.
Because I've done slides with 3 sentences, but they've been fairly short sentences. So I just, because I've done one recently. Yeah. So less is more, I would say. But then you don't want a document post that's about 35 slides long, because that's the other thing to remember, because people get bored clicking. So keep the number of slides down. And if you've got so much information that you're either going to need 35 slides, then maybe do more than 1 document and sort of theme it around. So you break it down into smaller chunks and do it that way.
Cool. Fiona Riddle says, you said LinkedIn doesn't like links.
Yeah, web links. It doesn't like LinkedIn. If you put a web link in a post, it won't get the same amount of reach as a post without a link.
Sadly, that is true. But I mean, but then it's interesting because some people are kind of like saying, "Well, I put my links in anyway because I need them." And you know what I mean. I think it's what your goal is. And I mean, I still put links and stuff. I'm kind of like. I think more about the user experience and like not having to click through and find stuff. So for me,
I mean, from LinkedIn's perspective, they want to keep people on the platform. They don't want you sending people off to your website or somewhere else. So that's, I don't know this for sure, but I imagine that's why they curb the reach of posts that have got a web link in. But test it. If you do post without a link and do post with, then I'm sure you'll see a difference. But it's always been that way. There are various hacks that I'm not sure whether any of them work. Some people say publish your post and then go back in and edit and add the link. Some people say put it in the comments, but there are issues and problems with all of those. But as Io says, sometimes you've just got to do You just got to do it. I mean, I like to promote, I promote my email newsletter. And so, that's always going to have a link in it. And those posts never do as well. Any events, when we do posts about these LinkedIn lives, they never do as well as a post without, because it's classified as a web link, unfortunately.
So we've got lots of people saying thank you so much. This has been brilliant, very nice. Look. And Alana has kind of asked a question about the links in posts, which we kind of answered. So I think we've already done that. Lorraine said just think about more and more videos are presented in portrait mode, like Insta now. Yeah, that's an interesting trend. I don't know, does it work as well in LinkedIn? I'm not sure, but then sometimes I'm like, sometimes it kind of just stands out from other stuff. So why not? So
there are rumours that they're going to bring their stories equivalent back again. Because remember when they launched, like Instagram stories and Facebook stories, LinkedIn did their own version of that for a while and then got rid of it. And there are lots of rumours that they're bringing that back. And obviously that's where the portrait will come in, I imagine.
Hopefully, because that's actually quite fun.
Yeah.
Okay.
And although it's interesting, I saw something recently, the TikTok are starting to push landscape videos, I wish they would just all have one format that worked across all of them.
Sadly, it's about shareholders and getting dwell time, isn't it? So that's what they're all driven by. Thanks so much for listening to the Built Environment Marketing Show. Don't forget to check out the show notes, which will have useful links and resources connected to this episode. You can find that on abassmarketing.com. And of course, if you like the show, please do share it with others on social, as it helps more people to find us. See you soon.